Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to wait a couple of minutes just to let folks filter in, and then we'll get started with today's presentation. Okay, just one more minute, and then we'll get started. All right, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. My name is Suhani Parikh. I'm the co-founder and publisher at Sambasivan Parikh, and we are excited to be here today with 5 fellow independent presses. Today we'll be showcasing our forthcoming fall and winter 2025 children's book titles. And as a book enthusiast and parent of young children myself, I personally want to say that I'm so excited to see all the books that we'll be sharing today because they truly reflect the beautiful world we live in. Ambika is my co-publisher.
Hi, everyone.
And Ambika, the participating presses.
Yeah. So we're really excited to present 6 small presses today. And we really wanted to use this opportunity to shine a spotlight on small press titles that you may not come across through regular channels. This is the primary reason we're doing this. And we hope to really allow you to explore these catalogs and know more about these small presses. So we have today we have Catalyst Press with us. We have Cardinal Rule Press. We have Readers to Eaters. We have Todo, and we have Sawaga River Press. Each one has a slightly different focus, a different editorial thrust. We're really excited for them to show you their titles.
Okay, and we will kick off with our own small press. So Sambasivan Parikh is a small children's press. We champion the voices and stories of diasporic communities. And our goal is to amplify the perspectives of those growing up and living across geographies and between cultures.
So, Annie, I want to quickly mention that the slideshow is not moving.
Oh, it's not moving forward?
Yes.
How about now?
Yes.
Thank you.
We publish under 3 imprints. So we have Modern Marigold Books, which focuses on social emotional learning that is really rooted in identity, particularly looking at first-generation experiences. We have Yali Books that opens windows to South Asia, looking at South Asian communities and cultures through a feminist lens. And we are excited this year to be announcing a new nonfiction imprint. So that's going to be called First Person Press. And we're going to champion authors' points of view and their lived experiences through their books.
Okay. The first title we'd like to share is Super Satya Saves the Day. This title is written by Rakhi Mirchandani, and this is a new acquisition of Rakhi's debut picture book. And the book centers a spunky child who discovers that her superpowers lie not with her cape, but within. We're releasing a revised edition of this title this summer, and 2 new formats that weren't previously available with the first printing.
The second title we have this fall is Sign Up for Adventure. This is a story that centers a friendship between a deaf child and his hearing classmate. The story is told by the hearing classmate. This is a beautiful book that was initially published in India, and then we acquired it and then adapted it for North American audiences. We really love this book because it really centers sign language positivity and how we can learn and adapt to make the classroom more inclusive for deaf children.
The next title is Dias at Circle Time. This is also an acquisition of ours, and we're doing a reprinting this fall. It's coming out September 23rd. It's called Dias at Circle Time, a celebration of South Asian festivals around Diwali time. And the original book was called Let's Celebrate Diwali. So what we did is the original book came out about 10 years ago. We updated the book to show that while Diwali is perhaps the best known Hindu holiday, that there are many other holidays that occur right around the same time. So we wanted to include all of those in the narratives and bring all those into the classroom through this title.
The next title we have for fall is called The First Girl on Stage. This is a gorgeous, really gorgeous celebration of a folk and theater art form that's performed on the western coast of India. The theater form is called Yakshagana, and in the past, women were not allowed on stage. So in the 80s and early 90s, the first few women started to learn and perform alongside men. And today you have all women troupes who perform Yakshagana in Bangalore, for example. Uh, this is written by author Shruti Rao and absolutely beautifully illustrated by Devika Joglekar. And it's set back in time, and it really shows this girl who takes on who starts to learn Yakshagana, but also takes on the role of a teacher and then builds her own troupe.
And we're excited for this title because this will be the debut title coming out under our new imprint, First Person Press. And it's called Diaspora-ish, Notes on Identities, Unbelongings, and Solidarities. It's written by educator Gayatri Sethi, and it follows the diasporic journey that she had. Her roots and connections span across many countries, from India to African countries to the United States. And she's created this workbook style book that encourages readers to question and explore their own identities and the ways that they think. And this was an incredible project to work on. We learned a lot from editing this book, so we're very excited for it to get out there and help shape young minds. And next up, we're turning things over to Catalyst Press.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you everyone for joining us. I'm Jessica Powers. I am joining from the Dallas airport, but hopefully you won't hear much. um, so Catalyst Press, and joining me is Matthew Powers, my brother, and my business partner, our digital marketing and metadata expert. And basically what I don't want to do, I dump in his lap. So thank you, Matt. We launched 8 years ago with our flagship imprint, Catalyst Press, which exclusively publishes African writers and African-based books. We have 2 additional imprints, Power Squared, which focuses on nonfiction narratives with a special emphasis on science, and then Flair Books, which publishes writers from around the world in the US, but does have a special emphasis on place-based books, so where setting is really important. We named the overarching press Catalyst Press because we see literature as a spark for change that begins with books. And we're definitely a big believer in the idea that independent presses promote independent thought and are an alternative to the corporate publishing of New York and kind of corporate thought and collective thought that occurs in New York, and we're outside of that spectrum. So we can move to the first slide. Matt and I will be presenting back and forth. So Matt.
The first title we wanted to share with you is the second verse. It follows a teen boy in a fancy private school in New London, South Africa. His family is slowly falling into poverty due to his lawyer father's alcoholism, abuse, and gambling addiction. Bokang is a cosmopolitan Black Xhosa, South African, his tribal tradition of induction into manhood, both important to himself, but expensive for his family. Into his world, like a meteor, comes a beautiful girl with her own complications and a hulking, jealous boyfriend. This book was written by a psychologist. It is a safer but not safe way for teachers and librarians to bring up racism, classism, suicide, drug abuse, friendship. But most of all, this is important because it deals with male culture and what does it mean to become a man. In our culture today, this is not necessarily a manosphere book at all, and it is written in the 90s, but it deals so clearly with the struggles of young men trying to live up to stereotypes, of trying to be something that their culture is trying to shove them into, and also trying to be who they are. So the setting is similar to the US context, but removed enough to bring clarity instead of knee-jerk political responses. All right, you can go to the next slide. Thank you.
The Fiery Spiral is the third in a series. So the year is some 50 years or so in the future. In book one, The Thousand Steps, Ebeden Eden has lived her entire life inside a bunker deep within South Africa's Table Mountain, believing, like all the other kids that she lives with, that the world above is uninhabitable due to nuclear holocaust. But she gets unexpectedly ejected. This was written before Silo, by the way, but if you're fans of Silo, there's some similarities there, but this, came out a good 5 or 6 years before. The first one came out 5 or 6 years before Silo. But when she's unexpectedly ejected, she discovers an entirely unknown world ruled by the severe after effects of climate change, mythology, and religion. In book two, she deals with typical teen woes, first boyfriends, mean girls, along with her own destiny as the inheritor of the one remaining farm, the only place that still grows food. Philip, you will enjoy this book. Even as the world heads towards a second apocalypse. Book three, which is the final, and by the way, book one has been our best-selling book of all time. At our best-selling novel book, as opposed to graphic novels and picture books. In book three, Ebba's desperate to restore balance to a world torn apart by warring gods, whose tribulations have led to ecological and social collapse. It's a deep examination of ecological crisis and the machinations of power. And it appeals to teenagers that love dystopian fiction, epic fantasy, and those that kind of have concerns about climate change. Next slide.
So Manor of Buried Secrets. This is another YA. When 16-year-old Peter Brewer's unconventional great aunt, Patricia, one of the last heirs to the once wealthy Woodwright family, passes away at the age of 105, Peter's family travels to Patricia's mansion for her funeral. Thrown into the hothouse of old views and eccentric characters, Peter finds himself drawn into the web of family secrets surrounding Patricia's inheritance. This is definitely a fun and beautiful book about a teen boy entangled in the mystery of a historic love story. Haunted by the ghosts that surround his great aunt's past from the dark heart of apartheid South Africa, Peter hunts for the secrets and treasures that might be hidden within the manor grounds, while trying to escape the danger from those trying to hide the past. This is a fast-paced, hard-to-put-down YA book that introduces American readers to the racism of apartheid and the divisions that still haunt South Africa. This story is relatable to our own checkered past. Next slide. Oh, Give Me a Home. So in verse, Oh, Give Me a Home tells the semi-autobiographical story of a young girl, Jane, and her life in rural Ethiopia with monkeys and waterfalls, and then her sudden change of life when her family moves to the suburbs of Idaho for a year. This story of culture clash from an American girl raised in Africa is both poignant sweet, and effective. This is a book for lovers of poetry, for children experiencing the change of one culture to another, for friends of those trying to adapt to the American way of life. Ultimately, it explores the reasons for where and why we call a place home and what it means to belong. Next slide.
I am so excited about this book. So some of you may know that I was fortunate enough to publish the last 5 books that Nikki Daly ever wrote and illustrated. Nikki Daly is South Africa's most well-known and beloved illustrator. This is his son's debut picture book, The Giant and the Olive. This is a simple but empathetic story born from the pain and loss of a miscarriage. It's big-hearted, it's humorous, it's the story of a tall giant in love with a little olive, and examines our loves, passions, and the destruction of loss. It begins with this giant unable to believe it. He's found the perfect olive. It's so round, so shiny, so black. He must show all of his friends. And that starts his journey as he runs to share his jubilation with everyone. And moves forward into unflinchingly tackling our greatest fear of loss. You can move on to the next slide. Thank you.
Our next book is a children's picture book. It's called Snowpile Soccer, which tells the funny story of snowmen built by siblings that come to life for an epic soccer game. Written in both English and French, this bilingual book is perfect for young soccer enthusiasts interested in other languages. Parents will find the analog illustrations of stitched fabric a relief from the relentless tide of AI and digital illustrations. The protagonists in Snowpal Soccer are West African immigrants living in East Coast America. Relax into a world of sportsmanship and artisanal excellence that harkens back to our own childhoods, and maybe pick up a few words in a new language in the process. You can go to the next slide, please. All right, so I really love this book. It's both in English and now we're bringing it out in Spanish. It's just skin silly. It's called Es Solo Piel Hoy. So written by PhD professors Holly McGee, African American history, and Nina Jablonski, an anthropologist and paleontologist, comes the quirky and fun story of epidermis, your pal to exploring skin evolution and why there is such a diversity of skin color. This book is easy to read and approachable, but backed by hardcore science and expertise. Witty and expressive, this is the perfect selection for any library or science classroom in any region of the country. As a PhD in oncological sciences, I found this book to be both inspiring and rewarding as an adult reader. And the back matter is easy to read and an extensive scientific look at skin evolution, and technically could be cited by other scientific authors in their own journal work. So we can move forward. Thank you. So Ship in the Sky. This is written by it's a debut of a South African author. This is a near future young adult apocalypse. So Jack wakes from a whiskey-induced blackout to find his world rocked by earthquakes and a flood of biblical proportions. In the drowning world, Jack searches for people while fighting for survival. As his new reality settles in, Jack is stalked by a dangerous shadow while also fighting the demons from his past. Help may come from strange places. This is a literary work that will still appeal to young adult readers. The writing is excellent, rich, and vibrant. Although less dark, this book is more akin to The Road by Cormac McCarthy and Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel than the typical YA dystopian fare. This book is for the teen who loves dystopia and is a budding writer or wants a true literary experience, or for the adult who loves well-written YA. And quite frankly, this was a super satisfying read. If you want a book that you will love from basically start to finish, this book is for you. All right, you can finish, go forward. Thank you.
So I don't know about you guys, if you remember summer, but when you were a kid, it feels like a long time ago for me. Not sure if I remember it anymore, but certainly my own son is excited to be starting summer in a couple of weeks. This book, it's supposed to be a typical summer. It's 1981, Texarkana, which is a city straddling Arkansas and Texas. And Noah's just expecting to play baseball, ride bikes with his friends, fish, avoid the bullies, avoid the kids that he doesn't want to see. But instead, he wakes up in the hospital with giant wounds on his back, and he's the talk of the town. But nobody will tell him what happened. They've been advised by doctors to let him remember for himself. Noah's still reeling from the loss of his father in a suspicious tragedy, and suddenly he's the unwitting star in a highly publicized trial. Girls are starting to notice him. Kids who once bullied him now allow him to run with their pack, but at a cost. He's still stuck on that day and the accident he can't remember. It's just a brilliant coming of age novel, an exploration of masculinity, of what it means to be a young man. And also, I personally love stories where the setting is so important, as I've mentioned about the one. And this, I mean, I knew nothing about Texarkana and the rivalry between Arkansas and Texas until reading this book. It's kind of a delightful place where setting is a character. We can move on to the next slide. Chip and Chatty save the farm. Okay, so tired of being cooped up all day in their city house, Chip the dog and Chatty the cat follow Twinkle the Mouse's advice and end up riding the rails to the countryside. This is kind of set in 1930s America, so Great Depression era. They meet up with a traveler, Bingo, who can somehow understand and speak to the animals. The four seek work at a local farm, but something's wrong. The farm animals are unfriendly and cared for, not to mention hungry, while the mean farmer and his selfish family sit inside the house all day, locked away, ignoring the animals. How can this foursome save the farm from disaster? They take a big chance, launch a daring solution that involves all of the farm animals. The story about friendship, teamwork, and justice. It's wrapped up in a fun tale with anthropomorphic animals that children of all ages will love. Next slide. Next and last slide. There doesn't have to be a reason. Have you ever wondered why bears have tails? I never really thought about it until I read this book. But Bear goes through this book and different animals ask him what his tail can do. And it turns out his tail can't do a whole lot. Can your tail help you fly? Asks the bird. No. Can your tail help you swim? Asks the beaver. No. Can your tail swat bugs away? Asks the bison. No. Bear's tail does none of these things. It basically is useless. But no matter how many creatures and critters he meets, and no matter how many people ask him questions, he begins to wonder why he has one. But then he insists that doesn't mean he shouldn't love his tail. Real quick about the illustrations, I'm going to quote from a review at the Frumia's Consortium. Ms. Casper does a terrific job illustrating her debut using watercolors to bring her adorable, expressive characters to life. Honestly, it's hard to believe that this is her first book ever. The blend of cuteness with science, with a very important lesson in self-acceptance, is just astonishing. So thank you very much. I put my email in the chat, and thank you very much. And we can move on to the next press.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. Maria is next with Cardinal Rule Press.
Hello, everyone. My name is Maria, and I am the founder and CEO of Cardinal Rule Press. We are located in the Metro Detroit area, and we have been in business for 10 years. And Cardinal Rule Press, we focus on realistic fiction that is representative for children who are socially thoughtful. So we're really focused on social emotional learning for our youngest children. We're super niche, and that has really worked out for us. We are small but mighty press. We publish anywhere between 2 to 6 books a year. And so a lot of you might be thinking, oh my goodness, that's not a lot of books. But we've had titles that have sold hundreds of thousands of copies. So we put a lot of marketing behind our titles. That's a big part of what we do. And we do a lot of marketing with educators, so educational influencers. This is our manifesto, and it really speaks to who we are. We believe that books can make good neighbors. We do a lot of work with a sister company, which is a nonprofit, getting books into areas known as book deserts in Metro Detroit. And we have found that books can be a really magical piece of a child's learning and development for the next generation. Next slide, please. So today I'm presenting 2 of our titles that will be coming out in 2025. Like That, Eleanor is actually coming out in a couple of, well, next week. Oh my word, it's next week. The Amazing Power of Being an Ally. It's written by Lee Wind, who is a well-known author out in the space. And what I love about Lee is that he has published books in many different genres. Lee is part of the LGBTQ plus community, and he is a strong advocate for inclusion and for, empowering others to be kind. And so what this book does is it really takes you through the story with a character named Eleanor, and she notices that things are not fair for those who identify outside the binary world, but she doesn't know what to do about helping a friend. So through an investigation of activists of the past, like her namesake, Eleanor Roosevelt, she finds a way to stand up for her classmate. It is a beautiful, supportive, inclusive book, and we have gotten a positive review. We just got one from Publishers Weekly, and the biggest honor, I have to say, is that the Eleanor Roosevelt family has invited our author to come visit their park grounds in New York, and they're going to be doing an event with the book, and they are giving a blurb on their feelings about the book. So that's just the biggest honor, is knowing that the family feels like we did, justice with this book. So it'll be out on June 2nd. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is actually, I'm going to present one other title, but I wanted to stop and pause and tell you that many of our titles, we now have over a dozen of our picture books that have been translated into Spanish, and those are distributed through IPG, which is our publisher here in the United States. I'm out of Chicago. So these are for grades 2 through 5. Again, they have those social emotional learning themes. Each of our books comes with a reader's guide that has 10 lesson plans for teachers. So our biggest market really is teachers and educators. They love our books. So what we do in order to see whether or not we're going to translate into Spanish is we watch the sales of our books during that first launch year. And if we get enough sales that we feel are, appropriate enough to do a translation and to have a successful translation, we then translate. So we do have over 12 of our titles available in Spanish. And just to be clear, is not bilingual because our illustrations are done in a way that it doesn't really lend the book to be a bilingual title. Next slide, please. And this is our fall release coming out October 2nd. This is called Just Ducky, and it's a friendship that takes flight. This was an exciting project because it was the first time we ever had an author illustrator. So the author illustrator is Barry Tarragon Rogan, and she actually has published other titles before that have been very successful. This book has beautiful themes of cooperation, friendship, self-esteem, listening, and humor. It's about a little girl who is quirky and she wants to be called Ducky, but her real name is Margaret. And she tries to get people to call her Ducky, and people do not want to call her Ducky. So it's a funny book about individuality and just helping children who might feel different understand that being different is okay. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about our marketing plans at Cardinal Rule Press. I told you that we work with influencers. We also send out advanced reader copies through ABA, their children's box. So we release 1,000 copies so that 750 of those can go into their kids' box. We also produce a book trailer for all of our titles, and our channel has over 3,000 subscribers, and all of our book trailers get on average 10 to 20,000 views. We do advertising with Edelweiss. We do email marketing. Our list is currently at 20,000. And we also do something called a virtual book tour, which gets a lot of eyeballs and visibility on our titles. So we work with different people on Instagram. They each get a review copy of our book, and for 10 to 12 days, they're constantly posting about that title. So there's a lot of push before the book is released. Last but certainly not least, we work with Goodreads on a giveaway. We work with Facebook on a giveaway, Library Thing on a giveaway. So we really try to reach different markets, not just parents and caregivers, but we try to reach, educators, booksellers, librarians. We try to give our love to everybody at Cardinal Rule Press. Thank you so much for listening today, everyone.
Hello. So I'll jump in. I'm Philip Lee. I'm the co-founder and publisher of Readers to Eaters based in San Francisco. Um, some of you may know some of my previous work. I was previously the co-founder of Lee and Low Books. So we started been in publishing for quite a long time. And with Readers to Eaters, I co-founded this company with my wife, Junjo Lee. Like I mentioned, we're based in San Francisco. Our company is distributed by Publishers Group West, which is part of the Ingram Content Group. So, just for you librarians and if you're retailers out there, then you can find our books through PGW. So we started this company in 2009, Readers to Eaters, with a specific focus to promote food literacy through stories about our diverse food cultures. So what that means is that our lens is on food when we tell a story, but really our focus is on people. And in other words, we tell stories about people through food, because and the reason why is that we want to tell stories that connect people. And I think food is the great connector. Everybody shares it, everybody experiences it a few times a day. And it doesn't matter if you're 9 or 90, everybody has an opinion about it. So we decided to start a company from there. And let's tell stories about food that we can all relate to. And then to educators, food is also a great example in every subject. It doesn't matter if it's science, social studies, art, we can use food to talk about immigration, we talk about social justice. So food, again, we find it's almost like name any subject and we can use an example that children can relate to through food. So that's really how kind of our intention of starting the company. That plus we started a company 6 weeks after Michelle Obama started the White House Garden. and that has something to do with it too. So again, in 2009, and I'm really excited today of our focus of this gathering is global literature. And our publishing program is very small, so I specifically want to just highlight one of our books that really kind of talk about globalism locally. And so maybe if I can see the next slide. So this is a book, Chef Roy Choi and the Street Food Remix. It's a book that we published actually a few years ago, but it just recently came out in paperback. And it's also available in Spanish. And some of you may know, Roy Choi is the chef in LA that started really the food truck movement. Food truck existed before, but he's the first kind of chefy, culinary school trained chef to start a food truck. And part of what really also allowed him to do that is because of he's the first business on Twitter. Because he can go on Twitter and say, find my food truck in Santa Monica, find my food truck in Venice Beach, find my food truck in Orange County and Burbank. You couldn't do that before until Twitter happened, interestingly. So technology actually plays a role. And of course, uh, like kids are very interested in food truck now, but we also want to tell the back end, this is not a marketing gimmick. What the reason why he started a food truck is because he grew up in the Koreatown in LA, right next to the Mexican neighborhood. So for him to put a Korean barbecue on a taco and get it on the truck, it's a very much an LA experience. And in fact, in addition, something that we tell the story, about food truck, about street food. So we purposely want to match the street food story with street art. So we found a graffiti artist in LA, Man One, who's actually his heritage is Mexican American. He's a really well-known graffiti artist in LA and to do the artwork. So you can see like the painting in the bottom there. And there's a lot of graffiti style art, but he's the first graffiti artist we know where he actually spray painted, on 5 feet tall canvases, like this cover you see, and then we made it into a book. And so kids are very interested in, the food truck experience as well as graffiti art, knowing that, oh, it's not just vandalism, but it's actually art. But another thing that we also try to do through the story is really talk about the 1965 Immigration Act. It's something that we mentioned in the author's note. The author, actually, Junjo Lee, the co-author, Junjo Lee, who is also my wife, and a food ethnographer. She studies food culture for 10 years. She was a food ethnographer for Google. So, and she co-wrote this book with Jacqueline Briggs Martin, and some of you may know because she wrote the Caldecott winning book Snowflake Bentley, a number of years, about 20 years ago. So they co-wrote this book, but Junjo wrote this story because of the 1965 Immigration Act. That she, just like Roy Choi, and just like many of the very popular Korean chefs in America right now, believe it or not, they are almost exactly the same age. I mean, it turns out all these famous chefs are born like roughly around 1970 because they are the children of the 1965 Immigration Act. And because of this act, actually, other kind of ethnic food, cultural food came to America. Before 1965, actually there wasn't that much variety. And all of a sudden the first Ethiopian menu showed up. The first Thai menu showed up. Sushi came to America in the early 70s. So while we tell a story about food truck, we're actually also talking about the immigration history of America. So that's what we try to do. So this is why this book is really a good example how we go about telling stories about people through food. And so again, this book now has been out new in paperback in Spanish, but also available in audiobook in both English and Spanish, produced by Live Oak Media. And then the final thing I want to say is that in addition to making books, it's really important for us to create these partnerships with the readers and the eaters side of the equation. So we go to to schools and libraries and work with them in terms of food programming, such as the summer meal programs that they're doing, and many, many other programs going to libraries. But we also go to the eater side. We go to food banks. We go to USDA program like SNAP-Ed and WIG, and also have them use books as part of the nutrition education mission. And so really kind of connecting the readers and the eaters to work together to have programming to support education. So you can definitely write us more, for these kind of information. And then the final thing is we're going to be at ALA, we're going to be exhibiting there, and we're also having some programming at the first food cookbook bookstore in Philadelphia. So we'll post more information on our Facebook page. So please join us, and wonderful to meet you all.
Thank you so much. And we're turning things over to Todo Press.
Hello. So my name is Naiba Reynoso. I am the founder of Con Todo Press, a Latina-owned publishing company that creates bilingual children's books that celebrate Latino leaders and culture. And I like to emphasize the joy of being Latino and of our culture, because as a media professional, I'm a journalist that's been working in different formats of media for the last 30 years and continue to do so. A lot of the stories that portray Latinos are tragic, right? Tragic or sad, or of the immigrant experience. But there's the other side of the coin that's vastly ignored, which is our joy, our happiness, our community, which is the biggest part of our culture. So Con Todo Press was founded because as a mom, I did see that lack of children's literature that not only celebrated the joy of our culture, but also our leaders. I have a son and a daughter, and whenever they had to do book reports or things of that sort, obviously they would base their book reports on books. And if there's no books that focused on Latino leaders, then they would have a hard time writing book reports about Latino leaders. There were some out there, but it was usually the same figures over and over and over again, without focusing on the expansive types of leaders in all kinds of different industries, astronauts and researchers and scientists, and all of these different fields that were vastly ignored in children's literature. So that's why I started it. And my first book, Be Bold, Be Brave, 11 Latinas Who Made U.S. History, was published in 2019. And it's an Amazon bestseller many, many times over. And it continues to be my bestseller to date. I have 20 titles, and we can go to the next slide so I can show you a few books on my backlist that are also extremely popular: How to Fold a Taco and How to Stuff a Piñata. All of my books are bilingual, and both of these books rhyme in both languages, which is a really, really heavy lift. It's difficult for books to rhyme in one language, let alone two languages. But I, set out to really give value to both languages and not just make one language rhyme and kind of ignore and have the second language as a secondary or as a sidebar. I really wanted to make sure that I gave both languages the same amount of attention as they deserve. And both of these are obviously nonfiction, but I wanted to take a huge element of Latino culture, which tacos and piñatas, and really center a book about those two. Each book, the How to Fold a Taco is an adventure of different ways, fantastical ways, using your imagination of how to fold a taco. And then How to Stuff a Piñata is also a fantastical way. Every page has an imaginative way to stuff a piñata. But at the end of the day, I always have a message in each book. In How to Fold a Taco, it's that the important part is sharing tacos with those you most love. And then in How to Stuff a Piñata, it's the piñata is destroyed at the end of the day, but the important part was that you created memories with friends and family. So I always make sure that I incorporate some kind of a lesson or some kind of nice takeaway, as opposed to it just being a fun book. So those are on my backlist. We can go to the next, and those are very popular, by the way, for schools and author readings, etc. And these are my bilingual board books. They are also bilingual. Little Plants is a book that every single page talks about a different plant, and Latino community, we love plants. So I wanted to honor our culture by writing a book about plants, and every page correlates a plant with an emotion. So, there's I discovered some, like a weeping willow, obviously represents sadness, and a sunflower is happiness, but it's written in a really nice way where it's like, for example, the cactus is representing, resilience, because their roots are strong and they're resilient, right? So anyway, that's another book that really not only teaches children about the different plants that exist, but it also taps into emotions. And then at the end, it's encouraging children to feel how they feel, and however they feel is okay. It's okay to feel sadness, happiness, joy, frustration. I even have anger in there. And of course, I use the Venus flytrap to represent anger. Be Bold, Be Brave Chiquitos is a board book version of my popular first book, Be Bold, Be Brave, 11 Latinas Who Made U.S. History. At the end of this board book, I have a mirror, so it could encourage babies to, look at themselves, because I know that that's important for them to see themselves. I Love You, My Little Taquito is also all Latino food. So every single page, and that one rhymes as well in both languages. Every single page is a different kind of food. And it's like either a mommy or baby, or a daddy and baby represented in a food form. So we have tamales, we have churros, we have little cookies, we have all kinds of rich food images about food that are popular in the Latino culture. And then Counting Piggies. I really wanted to think about a book that would encourage parents to talk to children about money and saving, and just have a conversation, just a starting point. So this board book is about a piggy bank, and every single page is a different piggy bank. And like we start with one piggy bank, and then two wrestler piggy banks, and then three Frida Kahlo piggy banks, and then, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then at the end, it's a little boy in a room with all kinds of piggy banks. So you're encouraged to count the piggy banks. And in Mexican culture, we love these decorative piggy banks. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but I wanted to honor that decorative piggy bank. And we kind of go all out and we literally have these piggy banks. Like we have a mariachi piggy bank. So anyway, we can go to the next page, which is my most recent book that I acquired from an author from the Bronx. Her name is Luz Maria Mack, and she's an Afro-Latina. This is literally was just released last month. And this book honors the rhythm of bachata, the rhythm of Dominican music, and it's a household, and you could see all of the rich items that belong or you can find in a Dominican household, like a domino table, for example, right? The food that you can find in a Dominican household. But the main character is this little girl who is intimidated because everyone in her household dances very well and dances bachata really well. And she's intimidated, and she wants to copy the way her aunt dances, but she can't. She just can't get the beat. And then she wants to copy how her parents do it, but, blah, blah, blah. At the end, obviously, she finds her own beat because her dad lets her know, hey, bachata was born from the campo, or the fields, by musicians from your culture, and they just kind of create music from their heart. So that's how you have to navigate in this world, whether you're dancing or anything else. And at the end, she finds her confidence, and she just dances to her own rhythm. So there's a lot of different themes in there. It's finding your confidence, being okay with being who you are, embracing your culture, and all of that. So currently, Con Todo Press has about 20 titles published, and this year I have about 5 in production, and I'm self-distributed as of now, but I'm literally talking to a distributor as we speak. I literally got my distribution agreement this morning, literally this morning, from a big distributor. So I'm very excited about that. And yeah, hopefully that deal will close, and you will find me with a major distributor. And you can also find me at contodopress.com. All of my information is there, and you could order books directly through my website. Even wholesale is on my, the link to buying wholesale is on my website as well. But hopefully very soon you could just buy through my distributor. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was wonderful. And last but not least, turning things over to Sawaga River Press and Justine.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I am so in love with all these books that I am hearing about, and I'm just so grateful to be part of this collective, hearing about our collective experiences and our dreams. You're definitely all inspiring me to keep doing what I'm doing and publishing our stories through our independent and diverse presses and process. So my name is Justine Villanueva. I'm the founder of Sawaga River Press. I was raised in Bukidnon, Philippines until I immigrated to the United States quite a while back. I come here by way of the Sawaga River, which is the river of my ancestors. And it's a river that's connected to the Great Pulangi River in Bukidnon, connected to the mighty Pacific Ocean, and connected to the Puda Creek, which is the river that flows through where I am now in Davis, California, where I've lived with my family for the last 10 years and trying to belong to this land. And I'm feeling slowly the land claim me, and it's showing up in my dreams and in the stories that our press publishes. So I wanted to get that um, out because many people ask what Sawaga means or where Sawaga River is. And so it is just our way of bringing the river with us wherever we are in the diaspora. So as you can see in this slide, we are Sawaga River Press and we curate cycle-breaking storytellers and talented independent artists and passionate community partners to promote literacy and self-determination and connection with each other, our ancestors, and the land. In the Filipino cosmology, we believe in what's called kapwa, which is our kinship and kinship with each other, people, humans, and more than humans. And kapwa guides our press's work. And so it's a value for us that I wanted to make sure I mention. All our books are multilingual. It's in English, Tagalog, or Filipino, Bisaya, which is another major Filipino language, and Bukidnon or Binukid, which is the indigenous language of Bukidnon. So people always ask why we try to do 4 languages instead of one, instead of 2. And I always say we don't have the luxury of doing 1 at a time or 2 at a time. So we're all just going to put it in there. And we explore how we do translations with each book that we publish. So language is a big thing for us. So this fall, we are excited to bring to our community our latest books, and they're no order of importance here. They just happen to fall where they do in the line of things. So here's the Salamat book, which means the thank you book, and it's illustrated by Christina Javier. Very beautiful. It's an illustrated poem, a Hainaku poem. If somebody out there is familiar with it, it is a poetic form that was created by a Filipino-American poet, Eileen Tabios. And it is dedicated to our human and more than human elders and ancestors. It talks about belonging. It focuses on the Filipino and Filipino-American history and really makes a point to celebrate our bodies as manifestations of our ancestors and our, I call it ancestors in training. So it's just a celebration of who we are, past, present, future. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. I want to add, because this applies to all of our books, not just for the Salamat book, but we have included in our books sample or model lesson plans written by Filipino American educators. And they're just there as a resource for educators should they want to use this book in their curriculum. And we also have in there a Filipino American history lesson. It's not long, but it's enough to give a basis for the books for people who are not familiar with Filipino American history. Now we're here. Our Bahandi, Our Wealth. We're truly excited about this book. It is a collection of narratives solicited from our community, ranging from writers who are 1 year old and 70 years old from the east to the west coast of the US. And it's all about our wealth, our cultural wealth, which include our immigration stories, our names, why we are named the way we are, our gifts from our ancestors, our dreams for the future, the languages that we have inherited, all those amazing things that we have that sometimes do not get given appreciation, especially for kids at school, because the dominant narrative that we are trying to counter is that students of color are poor or are deficit in many respects. So this is our counter narrative showing our cultural wealth. Again, this also has lesson plans and a summary of Filipino history for those who are interested in using this book in their classroom. Next slide, please. So all about my Lola. Lola is grandmother in Filipino. And this right here is actually a companion journal. I will show the book that it is companion to after this. But essentially, All About My Lola is a book of prompts to help gather and celebrate our grandmother's stories. It is a tool, a resource for young kids to use so they can ask their grandmothers about how it was back when they were kids, all throughout their adulthood, all throughout their elderhood. So it's just a way to gather oral history. And next slide, please. And this is the book that came out last year in the winter of 2024. And it's about Mungan and Lola, and it's about a picture book about the child Mungan who goes on a journey to help her Lola feel better because something happens that makes Lola sad. And the book is all about our rituals of care, which includes cooking and playing music and herbal remedies, all the things that we practice in the community that help with our healing. And the biggest one here is the healing power of storytelling. I wanted to, oh gosh, I was going so quickly that I forgot to read some of the blurbs for these books. So since we are already at the tail end of my spiel here, I will forgo those and just say that all of our books and all of our processes are very community based, and we try to involve the community in our process. So all of our books, for example, are crowdfunded. We solicit from the community for their narratives. We ask for their help with distribution and sometimes with marketing. So it's very community based right now, and it is how we want to do this because we believe it is also a practice of our Kapwa values. And I just want to add that beyond the books themselves, which are obviously important and fun to read, and we want them, what we really value at the end of the day is the relationships that we create in the process of publishing these books. So I am very happy, for example, to be making this relationship now with a collective and hopefully with future readers in the audience who might be interested in our books. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Those are so beautiful. I want to just take a moment to direct everyone's attention to the chat. I know a bunch of us have put in some links and some additional notes there about where we'll be and some websites to look at. So please take a look at those. And if if anyone wants to add anything in there, please do so now. And thank you all, presses, for being here. This was a really wonderful opportunity to share the work that we're doing and what we have coming up for all you educators and librarians out there. And I didn't see any questions come in, but if there are any questions from the audience, please go ahead and put that in the chat and we can get those answered for you. And if not, we hope that you'll reach out to us directly. We'll be sending out the presentation with links and contact information as well for all the presses. So we hope to hear from you guys and to hopefully work with you in getting our books out to more young minds.
I have a question if no one else has. Is this this collective panel approach or something you plan to do regularly? I know this is the first, so I'm wondering what your future plans are for this.
We hope so. Ambika, did you want to chime in?
I think that is the goal. The goal is to really build this relationship, this network that we have, and really to lift all boats. So as we, talk about our books, we'll talk about everyone else's books and keep sharing. And we hope the audience here today will also share our books. Small presses struggle with visibility and discoverability, and these are all efforts to counteract that.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
I believe also as we move forward, and we may have maybe some meetings with the small presses about as we've thought of some of the back things that we do that may be of help to each other, and maybe in the future even be able to use the collective as a way to leverage maybe better pricing in certain ways if we can come together and maybe get from printers or so forth. But this is just it's just a start. Hopefully we'll find ways to help each other and grow and be both emotional and business partners to some extent.
Indeed. All right, well, that's about it. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day, and we hope to hear from people out there, and have a great rest of your week, everyone.
Thank you so much for organizing.
Thank you.
Really great.
Thank you.